The office hums with the false calm of late Friday. The air smells of toner and rain. Elise Tran stands beside the floor-to-ceiling window, her reflection bending across the city lights that glimmer like broken promises. Behind her, Mark Langdon delivers the sentence as if it were weather. "Your department's being restructured." His voice doesn't waver. It never does. Elise nods, the kind of nod that keeps the tears inside. She's given this place 10 years, sacrificed birthdays, her marriage, her peace. Now the word terminated lands on the polished desk like a gavel. The fluorescent light flickers overhead as she gathers her things. Mug, photo frame, a crumpled post-it that says breathe. The building exhales her into the rain. She walks away without looking back, every footstep dissolving into the city she once thought she owned. Her apartment feels smaller than it did yesterday. The walls hum with quiet betrayal. Elise sets the box down, its contents spilling onto the floor. Files, pens, a single photograph of her and her brother Andy at Pike Place years ago. She kneels, tracing the edge of the frame. Andy's text blinks on her phone. "You okay?" She doesn't answer. The rain outside keeps time with her pulse. She realizes she's been living in fluorescent light for a decade. And now the natural dark feels like honesty. She whispers to the empty room, "Thou'll regret this." Not as a curse, but a promise. The night deepens. Elise's laptop hums alive, her face lit by the cold white of the screen. She opens old project folders, scrolling through years of buried work, her fingerprints on every profit surge, every acquisition. Then she finds it. Legacy, merger, 2019.xlsxx. A proposal Mark once rejected. An offer from a small but rising tech firm, Phoenix Capital. Her pulse quickens. Their growth chart is staggering. They wanted partnership once. Now, maybe they want ownership. Morning light cuts through the rain clouds, painting silver across her mirror. Elise stands before it, hair unbound, exhaustion replaced by steel. On the vanity rests her mother's silver bracelet. Courage is a choice engraved on its inner band. She fastens it, inhales, and opens her laptop again. The cursor blinks on a blank email draft. Subject line: opportunity revisited. She types steadily, her reflection steady behind the glass. For the first time in years, she isn't reacting. She's creating. By Monday, the city gleams anew. Elise sits in a corner cafe facing her old office tower, steam rising from untouched coffee. Across from her, Dana Ruiz, CEO of Phoenix Capital, watches her with measured intrigue. "You said you had something to show me," Dana says. Elise slides a folder across the table. Numbers, blueprints, market projections, all rebuilt from the ashes. Langdon Financial is unstable, Elise says softly, but with the right buyout, it could be reborn. Dana leans forward, impressed. Outside, thunder murmurs approval. Elise doesn't look at the building again. She doesn't need to. Monday turns into war. Elise wakes to her inbox flashing. Dana's team wants to move fast. They're intrigued by her data, hungry for Langdon Financial's hidden cracks. As she sips her black coffee, her phone buzzes again. An unknown number. "We need to talk." It's Mark. His voice is calm, rehearsed. He's heard whispers of her meeting. "You're walking a dangerous line, Elise," he warns. She smiles faintly. "You drew it." Outside her window, the rain begins again. Steady, deliberate. She forwards Dana the internal files Mark once buried. In the corner of the screen, her reflection watches. Quiet, precise, unstoppable. Mark Langdon's office feels colder than it did last week. The skyline stretches gray and heavy behind him. Across the desk sits his CFO, Leonard Geller, eyes narrowed behind thin glasses. "Phoenix Capital's moving in," Leonard mutters. "Someone fed them our weaknesses." Mark's jaw tightens. Someone! His voice is a low burn. On his computer, An internal leak report flashes Elise's name. He leans back, fingers tapping the desk. A silent metronome of rage. Find her, he says. Find what she knows. The power shifts without sound. Only the hum of the air conditioner bears witness. At a quiet riverside cafe, Elise meets Andy, her younger brother, who hasn't seen her in months. He slides into the booth, worry hiding behind his grin. "You're playing with fire," he says, stirring his coffee. Elise shrugs. "I've been burned before." Andy watches her, sees the same sister who once taught him how to bluff at poker. "What if this isn't revenge?" he asks softly. "What if it's something bigger?" Elise looks past him to the gray river glinting with the first light of afternoon. "It's justice," she says, and it's already begun. Dana's conference room gleams like a chessboard. Screens glow with charts and projections. Elise's work reborn in sharper colors. Dana leans forward, her tone measured but fierce. "You're sure you want to go through with this? You'll be the face of the acquisition." Elise nods, fingers tracing the company's name on the slide. Langdon Financial Holdings. She feels the tremor beneath her skin. Not fear, but anticipation. "He fired me," she says, "so I could build something better around her." Analysts nod. The deal moves from whisper to inevitability. Night falls over downtown. In his corner office, Mark watches the news. Phoenix Capital has entered a surprise bid for controlling interest in his firm. His reflection stares back from the dark window, smaller than he remembers. He grips a tumbler of scotch, his wedding ring glinting against the glass. The anchor's voice echoes. Industry analysts predict a major shift in leadership by end of week. Mark exhales smoke and mutters, "You really think you can win, Elise?" But his voice trembles. Outside, the rain has stopped. In another tower across town, Elise watches the same broadcast, her lips curving almost imperceptibly. By Tuesday, the storm is no longer metaphor. Headlines swirl across every business feed. Phoenix Capital eyes Langdon Financial buyout. Elise watches from her apartment as emails from reporters flood her inbox. She feels neither triumph nor fear, only the dizzy calm before something irreversible. Her phone rings again. "Andy, you're all over the news," he says, half proud, half terrified. Mark's not the type to lose gracefully. Elise stares out the window at the skyline. Neither am I. The rain light bends across her face like the glint of armor. The battle isn't corporate anymore. It's personal, and it has her name all over it. In the Langdon boardroom, tension hums like an exposed wire. Mark's voice slices through the air as he faces his executive team. "Phoenix thinks they can buy us out over my dead portfolio." Leonard fidgets, papers trembling in his hands. "Sir, it's not just them. The shareholders are calling for a vote." Mark's eyes flash. "Then we remind them who built this company." But behind his certainty, a flicker of doubt, the kind that grows when power starts to decay. As the meeting disperses, Mark's gaze lingers on Elise's empty chair, the one she used to occupy during every quarterly meeting. The silence taunts him. Andy visits Elise unannounced. He stands in her doorway, soaked and anxious. "You're playing chess with a man who doesn't believe in rules," he warns. Elise hands him a towel without looking up from her laptop. "He underestimated me once," she says. "He won't again." Andy studies her. The exhaustion, the drive, the quiet ache beneath her composure. "You're not doing this for justice anymore," he says. "You're doing it to hurt him." Elise meets his gaze, eyes steady. Maybe those are the same thing. A pause hangs between them. Love, fear, and the unspoken truth that she might be right. That night, Mark sits alone in his penthouse, scrolling through archived emails. Elise, old reports, her strategies, her words. Each line feels like a ghost of brilliance he never gave credit to. His wife, Marianne, appears at the door, hair wrapped in a silk scarf. "You're losing sleep over her," she says. He doesn't answer. "You always said she was the best you had." Mark stares at the screen. A line of her text glowing softly. "Innovation requires integrity." For the first time, he looks small. Not the titan of finance, but a man built on borrowed genius. Elise attends Phoenix Capital's gala that weekend. A swirl of champagne, silver, and subtle politics. Dana Rue greets her at the top of the marble staircase. "You did it," she says, clinking glasses. Elise smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Across the room, a familiar figure appears. Mark, uninvited, his expression carved in fury. The crowd hushes as he approaches. "You think you can destroy me?" he growls under his breath. Elise leans in, unshaken. "I didn't destroy you, Mark. You did that yourself." Cameras flash, and in that instant their war becomes public, irreversible, and deeply human. The fallout hits like shrapnel. News channels replay the gala confrontation on loop, dissecting every glance, every breath. Elise's name trends for all the wrong reasons. Ruthless, vengeful, power-hungry. She stares at the television, numb, as pundits debate her character instead of her numbers. Her phone buzzes again. Dana's name. "You handled that poorly?" Dana's voice cuts through, crisp as glass. "This isn't a vendetta. It's business." Elise exhales. "For you, maybe." She hangs up before the silence can turn cruel. In the window's reflection, the city blinks like 1,000 judgmental eyes. Mark spends the next morning watching his company bleed. Stock prices tumble. Shareholders whisper. Leonard enters the office, folder in hand, jaw tight. Phoenix is offering a buyout clause. "We're cornered." Mark slams his fist against the desk, glass shattering under his palm. "Not yet," he says, bleeding but unbroken. He looks out over the city, a skyline he once ruled, and sees his reflection trembling in the glass. "Get me her file," he growls. "Everything." Leonard hesitates. "You can't fix this with force." Mark turns, his smile brittle. "You'd be surprised what fear still buys." Andy visits again, this time with anger. "You think you're winning, but you're losing yourself," he says. Elise doesn't look up from the contract draft she's editing. "I'm taking back what's mine." Andy's voice rises. "Mom would hate this version of you." The words land hard. She stands, the bracelet on her wrist, catching the light. "Mom died building something no one valued. I won't." Andy's face softens, but he shakes his head. "Then who's left to value you?" The silence between them is heavier than the rain outside. He leaves, and she doesn't stop him. Mark attends an emergency board session, his confidence rebuilt through sheer defiance. But the numbers tell the truth. Phoenix's proposal is gaining traction. The shareholders restless. He catches sight of his reflection in the glossy board table. Pale, older, uncertain. Mariana's words echo in his mind. "You are losing sleep over her." For the first time, he feels it, not anger, but regret. Maybe Elise wasn't his enemy. Maybe she was the piece he destroyed to protect his pride. But remorse arrives too late in the world of finance. The vote is scheduled for Friday. The walls are closing in. That night, Elise walks through the quiet streets of downtown. She stops in front of the Langdon building, the place that made and unmade her. The lobby is dark, now hollow. Through the glass, she sees her own reflection. Confident, lonely, unrecognizable. Her phone rings once more. Dana. "It's done," Dana says. "By Monday, Phoenix will own them." Elise nods, but doesn't reply. She ends the call and lingers a moment longer, staring at the ghost of herself in the glass. Her eyes glisten. Victory has never felt so much like morning. Friday morning arrives like the sound of a closing door. The boardroom glows sterile and pale as the vote begins. Across town, Elise sits at her kitchen counter, laptop open, watching the live stream. Her name fills the news ticker beneath the broadcast. Former CFO linked to Phoenix acquisition. Her pulse pounds with each shareholder's raised hand. When the final tally appears, she doesn't cheer. She just exhales. A quiet, tired sound that doesn't resemble victory. On the screen, Mark's jaw tightens for a moment. Their eyes meet through the lens of a camera, two architects of each other's downfall, staring across a digital abyss. After the vote, Mark drives without direction, the city blurring past his windshield in streaks of gray. He ends up at the marina, the same one he used to visit after late nights at the office. He sits on the dock, staring at his reflection trembling in the water. The empire he built has slipped away, not through incompetence, but arrogance. His phone buzzes with missed calls from Leonard, from Marianne. He doesn't answer. He just mutters to the water, "She was right." The wind carries his voice away. Somewhere downtown, the first press release hits. Langdon Financial, a Phoenix company. Dana's office feels like a victory chamber. The deal has closed, and champagne corks pop in the background. "You did it," Dana says, handing Elise a glass. Elise accepts it, but her smile falters. "We did it," she replies, voice hollow. The sound of laughter from the next room feels distant, tinny, wrong. She checks her phone. A missed call from Andy. She hesitates, then silences it. The bracelet on her wrist glints under the office light. Courage is a choice, she realizes now. She's been brave in every way, except the one that mattered: forgiveness. Later that night, Elise finds herself outside Andy's apartment. She hesitates before knocking, drenched in rain, heart heavy with something unfamiliar. Remorse. Andy opens the door, stunned. "You look like you lost," he says. She exhales, voice trembling. "Maybe I did." He lets her in without a word. They sit on the couch in silence, the storm pressing against the windows. Finally, Andy says, "You could still fix it. Maybe not the company, but you." Elise nods, eyes glistening. "Maybe it's time I buy back something that actually matters." Across town, Mark returns to his office for the last time. The walls are bare now, boxes stacked where ambition once lived. He opens a drawer and finds a photo. The old executive team, Elise standing beside him, both smiling like they hadn't yet learned what success costs. He lingers on the photo, then places it gently in the trash. He doesn't look back. As he steps into the elevator, the doors close with a whisper, the kind that sounds a lot like goodbye. Upstairs, the empty office glows faintly in the city's reflected light, a mausoleum of ego and loss. Monday dawns with quiet rather than triumph. The city hums indifferently beneath a sky the color of steel. Elise sits in a glass conference room, her reflection caught in the polished table as reporters prepare to photograph the new leadership team. She looks composed, but something inside her has stilled. When the cameras flash, she doesn't smile. Later, in the restroom mirror, she studies her face. Success has given her everything except peace. Behind her, Dana appears in the doorway. "You look tired," she says. Elise meets her gaze through the mirror. "I look finished," she replies. For the first time, it sounds like freedom. Mark packs the last of his office belongings into the trunk of his car. The city feels smaller now, quieter, as if it too has moved on. Marianne waits beside him, arms crossed, eyes soft with something between pity and exhaustion. "You could apologize," she says. "It wouldn't change the past, but it might change you." He laughs once, bitterly. "Apologize to the person who took everything?" Marianne shakes her head. "No, to the person who deserved it before she became that." He looks at her then, the last trace of pride leaving his expression. "Maybe you're right." He closes the trunk, The sound final. That afternoon, Elise receives a visitor in her new office, Mark. He enters quietly, carrying a small envelope. The air between them hums with years of unfinished sentences. "I came to return something," he says, placing the envelope on her desk. Inside is the old company photo, the one he'd thrown away. "You earned it," he says. Elise studies him, searching for mockery, but finds none. "You could have just sent an email," she murmurs. "Some things shouldn't live in inboxes," he replies. The silence between them feels almost sacred. For the first time, neither one is trying to win. After he leaves, Elise walks outside into the drizzle. The streets gleam with reflections, faces, signs, fleeting glimmers of what once was. She stops before a small bookstore where she used to read during lunch breaks, long before ambition hardened her. Inside, she buys a blank journal and sits by the window. She writes, "Power without purpose is hollow. Revenge without forgiveness is a wound that never closes." Her handwriting trembles but steadies with each word. Outside, the city carries on, unbothered, beautiful. For the first time, she allows herself to breathe. At home that night, Elise calls Andy. He answers on the first ring. "I'm sorry," she says simply. "There's no speech, no preamble. Just the truth, naked and small." Andy exhales. "That's all I ever needed to hear." They stay on the phone, saying nothing, the silence tender instead of heavy. Elise walks to her window, the city glittering like it's been washed clean. In another part of town, Mark stands in his empty living room, the same city reflected in his glass. Two lives, bound by rivalry, finally learning to forgive what ambition ruined. The rain outside turns to silver mist, soft and endless. A week later, Seattle exhales sunlight for the first time in months. Elise walks along the pier where her mother used to take her as a child. The air smells of salt and morning bread from the vendors. She's not checking emails anymore. Her phone is in her bag, silent and forgotten. The city feels softer now, not conquered, but reclaimed. Andy joins her with 2 coffees, handing one over without words. "So," he says, "what's next?" Elise smiles faintly, something smaller, something honest. The gulls cry overhead. The water ripples like forgiveness, and the camera lingers as she finally looks at peace. Mark has left the city. His car winds through the evergreen foothills outside Seattle, windows down, wind carrying the scent of pine. He's rented a small cabin near a lake, where the only noise is wind against the trees. Inside, boxes sit unopened, but one rests on the table, the framed company photo he once discarded. He sets it upright, looks at it a long time, and finally smiles. Not at success, not at failure, but at the strange, imperfect beauty of being humbled. For the first time in years, he's alone. And it feels like healing, not punishment. Elise visits her mother's grave. The cemetery is quiet except for wind through tall grass. She kneels, placing her bracelet. Courage is a choice beside the stone. "You were right," she whispers. "It's not about building something big. It's about building something worth keeping." A tear slips down, but it's not sorrow. It's release. In the distance, bells chime from a church, faint and steady. Elise stands, shoulders lighter, ready to leave the past where it belongs. The camera pulls back slowly, the city skyline rising faintly beyond the horizon, like a promise renewed. Dana hosts a modest press event to announce a new philanthropic branch within Phoenix Capital, Elise's idea. The banner reads the TRAN Initiative, empowering women in leadership. Reporters applaud politely. Flashes sparkle like rain. Elise speaks briefly, her voice steady, free of ambition's sharpness. "Second chances aren't about erasing the past," she says. "They're about using it wisely." In the crowd, Andy watches proudly. For the first time, Elise's story isn't about revenge or redemption. It's about continuation. The applause fades into something gentler. The sound of renewal. Evening settles over Seattle. The skyline glows gold and violet against the bay. Mark sits on his cabin porch, watching the reflection of sunset on the lake. Elise, downtown, closes her laptop and steps out onto her balcony, gazing at the same horizon. Neither knows the other is doing the same thing, but maybe they don't need to. Some stories don't end with reunion but recognition of who they were and who they became. The rain that once divided them now drifts as a mist between two silhouettes, each softened by the light of understanding.